everybody, and welcome back to GC Squared. It's a podcast. We talk about video games and comic books, and sometimes they relate to each other. And as always, I'm here with my good friend Garrett. Now, when Garrett isn't busy making a grilled cheese sandwich, he's usually doing something related to video games. So go ahead and tell me a little bit about video games.
Okay, so funny story, I actually have not made a grilled cheese sandwich in a very long time.
Well, you must have been doing a lot of video game stuff if the opposite of grilled cheese is video game.
Yeah, fair. Since the last time we recorded, I played through, and started a second playthrough of Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
Yeah, up for Game of the Year. It got nominated.
Yeah, okay, here's the thing. That game is absolutely amazing. I want to say that first and foremost. Apparently, the game's been nominated for a bunch of different awards as well for the Game Awards.
Do you think it's worthy of being Game of the Year? Like, do you think it does everything it needs to do to be that?
This game, I don't know for certain. It might be my new favorite game of all time. It's definitely top 3.
Whoa, hold on. Xenoblade has entered the chat.
Yeah, I know. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is my all-time favorite game, but dude, this game is so good.
All right, then.
I can't ignore how good it is.
There you go. I mean, you've played through it twice. I cannot think of the last time you picked up a game and then just bulldozed through it twice.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I did that either. Usually I play a game, leave it alone for a few years, then go back later. But yeah, with that game specifically, yeah, I played through it, started doing some of the side content, and then I read online that apparently playing through the game twice, you get a lot more out of it the second time. It's one of those games for like 90% of the game, you're just sitting there confused as to what the crap is happening. But then during that last 10%, they reveal something that brings everything together and everything makes sense. So replaying it with my knowledge of what happens in the game, I'm noticing a lot of things, and it's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm very happy with that. I've been replaying a lot of Guitar Hero and Rock Band games because I picked them up on Xbox 360, and yeah, they've been really good.
Cool. Cool.
Yep, just a little blast from the past. I'm going through a little bit of a Final Fantasy phase as well, where I'm going back and playing through Final Fantasy games I've never beaten. Right now, I'm playing through Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, which is a GameCube classic one.
Had a Final Fantasy on the GameCube?
Yeah, it was called Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. It was a spin-off game specifically built around more dungeon crawling and action RPG combat. It's really cool.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah, it has a modern port. The modern port is horrible when it comes to online play, but everything else is fine.
All right. Rock on. So it sounds like you've been doing a lot of really good gaming, a lot of good games.
Yep. Also been playing a lot of 2XKO as well, which is the new League of Legends fighting game. That's been a lot of fun.
Oh, it's out now.
It's still technically in early access, but it's open beta.
Okay. Very
so
cool.
It's more or less out.
Well, we talked only briefly about that back on the PLC.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So that's pretty great. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to it.
Yeah, exactly. And for those that don't know, PLC is the Progenitor League circuit. It's a League of Legends tournament that Taylor and I are involved with.
Yeah, cool stuff. They have a tournament every month, and it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. I like working with the guys.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun for sure. And that also has its own podcast that I also am in most of the episodes for.
And I'm there, but I don't say anything.
Yep.
All right.
So, with that in mind, with the other host of the show, when Taylor isn't busy making a reverse grilled cheese sandwich by taking 2 slices of cheese and putting 1 piece of bread between them, he is getting involved in comic books, and he's a really good friend of mine. So, Taylor, what's been going on in the world of comic books?
I need to sit here and contemplate the sandwich concept that you just built.
I don't even know how you'd make it.
You'd have to you couldn't use American cheese. You'd have to use something like cheddar that can caramelize and crisp when you put it in the pan. because that's the only way you'd get it. But then it's like, why would you? I want to look this up at some point. In fact, I'm going to look it up now. This is the podcast for tangents. I'm going to look up a reverse grilled cheese. You can hear the sounds of my browser working. Hold on. Grilled cheese. No, it's got to be look reversed grilled cheese sandwich. Inside out grilled cheese sandwich. Okay. What we got here? Oh, that's not nearly as complicated as you would think it is. It's basically just a grilled cheese, but they like put shredded cheese on either side of the bread while it's baking, while not baking, while it's
Oh,
grilling,
okay.
and then it hardens the cheese on each side. So like it's kind of like cheese, bread, cheese, bread, cheese.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right, I'm glad that we looked that up. Things to try at home, I guess. Let's see. Comic books. There's a lot. What's happened since the last time we talked?
I'm not certain.
A lot. Okay, let's start with probably the biggest news of the year then. The DC Marvel crossover book. That actually happened and it was pretty fun.
Remember you
Just
mentioning it was. Oh, sorry.
it's just like a series of short stories that were inside this one issue, and all of them were some kind of crossover story. The big one was a team up between Batman and Deadpool because you think we're not going to buy the book, I guess. And so they headlined their two big characters. I was like, well, we're going to buy it. They had an interesting romance story in there between Wonder Woman and Captain America, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. They just said, "Oh, this is the combo universe where they both universes just kind of coexist and exist." And they decided that if that happened, Wonder Woman and Captain America would be an item. And it was like, you know what? I can dig it. I dig it.
Makes
Uh,
sense, I think.
then they had a couple of other like shorter stories that were a lot less interesting, but those were the two big ones.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah, and oh,
go
sorry.
ahead. Your turn.
The dichotomy between Batman and Deadpool, I'm sure, is very interesting. With Deadpool not being serious at all, and then Batman always being serious.
Oh, it was fun. And it's fun that like Deadpool was able to make a bunch of jokes at Batman's expense because we haven't seen that yet, you know?
Yeah, fair.
So that's probably the biggest thing that happened that I'm really excited about. We've also got, and this is probably going to tie into our bigger discussion a little bit. Uh, DC is doing a thing called DCKO, which is just like they wanted to put all their characters into a slugfest, and it's been kind of fun. But they announced and teased that we're going to get a Superman and Homelander fight.
I
Like
didn't
they,
even realize Homelander was DC. Is that just a crossover?
he's not. It's just a crossover event. They just
Okay.
brought Homelander in, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to get to see Homelander get his face caved in by a Superman punch. Let's go. That happened, and then, oh, you know what? I don't think we've had an episode since the Superman movie dropped.
I don't think so either, which I actually watched with you.
Yeah, I watched it 7 times in theaters.
7?
Yeah, 7 times.
Dude.
It was fun all 7 times. It never stopped being good.
Wait. Isn't the average cost of a ticket like $15 or something?
If you're going at the most expensive time, but I went on like a couple of Tuesdays, and my theater cost a little bit closer to like $10, but yeah.
That's nice. I do live in a more city area, so things tend to be more expensive here.
Uh-huh. So that, and yeah, I saw it 7 times.
Well, there you go then.
So yeah, that was obviously one of my more favorite movies that's released in a very long time. Every time I watched it, it made me want to be a better person.
No, I don't think you like Superman that much.
Fun facts, I do. So that's huge, but it's like huge in a lot of different ways because it's like I've talked to you a little bit about this, and like Superman fans have been talking about this in like fan groups and online for a long time, that the character of Superman has gone through quite a bit of character assassination where it, he's either being portrayed as boring or generic or lame or in most cases evil, and it's driven a lot of people nuts. And it's like, this isn't the Superman that we've came into the fandom to see, so what the heck. And this movie healed a lot of wounds that things like Injustice or the Zack Snyder movies that they've kind of inflicted on the character. It was nice.
Yeah, hopefully this time we won't have to deal with CGI mustaches.
See, it's so weird to me that they decided to go that way because it's a lot easier to add a fake mustache than it is to take away a real one.
That's really funny then. And you have experience with film, so if somebody would know, it would be you.
It's yeah, but like even then the CGI is not good. Like people, this was crazy. Like right after all of that happened, I remember a lot of people took a lot of these like deep fake programs, put in a picture of Henry Cavill, just put in a bunch of pictures of Henry Cavill into the deep fake and layered it on top of the existing Justice League footage, and the deep fake made it look infinitely better.
That's kind of funny.
And it's like, could we not have done this? But also, like he kept the mustache because it was for like Mission Impossible. He was doing a Mission Impossible movie.
Right, yeah, and it was part. Yeah, the story I heard is that it was part of his contract that he needed to have his facial hair and not shave or anything. And then they were like, hey, we'll pay you this money to let him shave so that we can record the scene, then he can grow it back. And then they said no. So that's the route they went.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's weird that they wouldn't let him shave it because, again, it's a lot easier to just either, wait a couple of weeks for it to grow back in or talk to the hair and makeup crew and get a fake mustache put on that looks like the real one. Like, that's way easier than trying to digitally undo a mustache.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
And, but like the whole production of Justice League was a huge mess because they finished the filming. They finished the movie. Oh, pardon me. They finished the movie, and then these. Oh my goodness! Stop texting me. They finished the movie, and then decided they wanted to go in and redo it, and like the redone version got put into theaters, and it was about as generic and middle of the road and inoffensive as a movie can get. Like it just didn't say or do anything. And then later they released the original cut. It was a completely different movie. It was 6 hours long. Well, closer to 4, I guess. It was a long event. Like you have to plan your day around watching it. And then it just was kind of bleak the whole time. And it drove me nuts how people would talk to me pretty often about it and be like, "Oh, the Zack Snyder cut would have done so much better." No, it wouldn't have. It would have gone to theaters and people would have said it was bleak and it was long and it was boring and nobody should watch it. And then it would have flopped just as much, if not harder. Ah, I kind of hate it. I kind of hate the whole fiasco that was the Justice League movie. And someday we'll get a good Justice League movie. It'll happen.
Well, there you go. Yeah, hopefully it'll happen in the future and everybody will be able to enjoy it and go, yay.
Yay.
And that's exactly how it goes. They just go, yay.
Yeah, that's
the only emotion expressed.
That's it. That's all there is. But that's about it for comics. But like we talked a little bit about some of the crossover stuff. The topic we wanted to go on today is kind of based on like some really, really interesting news that has been kind of slowly building throughout the year. It's the fact that like exclusives for Xbox and PlayStation have basically become like extinct. Like there are no more exclusives. Yet
Yeah,
Nintendo is still holding on to them.
I'm not surprised with that just because Nintendo is a very old fashioned company, but we'll get into that later.
Sure. And so we wanted to take a little bit of a look at what does a console exclusive even mean anymore? And like, is it worth these companies holding on to them still? Or if the fact that, like, this is kind of a newer thing that just happened a couple days ago, Steam announced that they're making a console. And it's like, if there's a Steam console and it already gets all of the PlayStation exclusives just a couple of months later, and Xbox doesn't have exclusives anymore and you can get them on Steam anyway. Is there even a point in getting a new console?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting balance, and I can foresee a lot of tangents happening during this conversation. And the reason for that is there's been a lot of change in the game industries and a lot of like shakeups recently. So I think it's going to lead to some interesting discussions for sure.
And I'm excited to have them. But first thing I want to go ahead and ask you is that have you kind of felt already like, uh, well, let's start with this. Nintendo still has like its exclusives. Do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage for the company and or the players?
I think it's an advantage for the company, but a disadvantage for the players.
Okay, go ahead and elaborate.
Yeah, sure thing. So the thing is it's an advantage for the company because here's the thing. Nintendo did a really good job of establishing its most important IPs early and sticking with those IPs and ensuring that those ones specifically always did well or had very solid games come out for them, There's reason why Mario, Legend of Zelda, Pokemon, they're all household names.
Yeah.
It's because they did very well early, and even though I would argue that Pokemon's quality has gone down over the years with games, it just varies from game to game. It very much varies from game to game because the
Yeah.
stark difference between like Legend Arceus and Scarlet and Violet is very apparent.
Hmm.
With that in mind, though, I feel like Nintendo overall has done a very good job of maintaining that high quality to the point where people feel like they have to own those consoles to own those exclusive games.
And Nintendo also does a pretty good job of keeping new console not hold on. Yeah, keeping new IPs like flowing in because you mentioned Mario and Zelda and Metroid, but Splatoon isn't nearly as old as those are.
No, but it still does well because they took a popular genre and add uniqueness to it and family friendliness that made it work.
And I think that right there, this whole the base of like having exclusive characters and exclusive games from the beginning, that's something that PlayStation doesn't have anymore and didn't have once the PS2 happened. And Xbox really kind of only had one. Xbox for a long time kind of lived on just Halo, but Tomb Raider and Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and Metal Gear Solid and like these games that were so ubiquitous. What's the word?
Ubiquitous.
Yeah, the games that are so ubiquitous with PlayStation, they all became multi-platform as soon as the PS2 was released, and they lost all exclusivity.
I feel like a big reason for that was a lot of companies felt like they had to release their games on the PS2 in order to reach the biggest market at the time. And that's the thing. There are definitely pros and cons of exclusivity that you need to consider. One of the pros for not being exclusive is you reach a wider audience and you increase the odds of your game succeeding if you're able to reach more people.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, to go back off of Claire Expedition, Claire Obscure Expedition 33. It released on PC, PS5, and Xbox. I need to double check to see if it released on PS4.
I'd be really
Even
shocked if it did.
let's see. Yeah, so there you go. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and then PC, and on top of that, it was on Xbox Game Pass. So, had a lot of attention, could reach more people and increase the odds of you being able to buy the game. So, for example, even though I play on a gaming laptop that's a few years old, I was able to lower the settings a bit and still get it to run very well on my computer.
Yeah, so there you go. Like if you don't have if your game's not exclusive, it's really easy for everyone to pick it up and play it and learn to love it.
Exactly. But companies do benefit from exclusivity, specifically the, main companies making the games, because then it's like, oh, if you want to play these games, you have to buy that console. But the only way you can make that work is if you have multiple exclusives that people are going to want to buy.
So my gaming experience is that I ultimately went with a PlayStation 4 rather than an Xbox. I was considering both of them. And I went with the PlayStation 4 because of Uncharted. Like that was like the thing that tipped it over for me.
Makes
But
sense, you're big on Uncharted.
yeah, I loved it. Great game. Still play it occasionally. Fun times. And then, Spider-Man came along later and that further cemented the choice. But it's like you said, you got to have like more than one exclusive. And especially when it comes to like these consoles are expensive now. And
Hmm.
it's really hard to say, "Oh, I'll just get both," because that's $1,500 down just to play games.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, I get exactly what you mean. A PS5, what it was like 450 or so, right? My wife and I specifically held off on buying a PS5 because we suspected that the Switch 2 was going to come out soon, and we wanted to buy that because we knew, like, here's the thing. I very much enjoy Nintendo games. I love, love, love Nintendo developers. I do not like Nintendo as a company, though.
I'll take that, Nintendo. I guess we've killed any chances of getting sponsored.
Well, my bad. It is what it is.
It is what
Anyway,
it is.
hey,
Wait, what is that in the back? Is that a bridge burning?
whoops, my bad. Anyway, so yeah, I love Nintendo developers. I love the games they make. They do such a good job of pushing innovation, in my opinion, and like taking old concepts and evolving them to add something new. Like even with Mario games, you see the same general formula. Like you jump around, you collect stuff, you explore these cool worlds. But every game, they go out of their way to change things, to add innovation, or just to make it interesting. That way, you can have a more fun experience and it encourages you to keep buying the games and to keep playing them. And they also do a good job of having enough time between mainline entries in the series where you don't feel like you have to spend a ton of money to keep up with them. And I think Nintendo has done a very good job of unlocking that formula of exclusivity. And since they have that, hard grip on it, why let go type deal.
Hmm.
And it's put me in a position now where my wife and we got a Switch 2 and we don't see much reason to buy like a PS5 or an Xbox or the future ones that come out, because odds are the games are going to eventually end up on PC and we have ways to play that. And we've even talked about getting a Steam Deck in the future for her to play PC games because she doesn't like to play on PC. So yeah, it's definitely put us in a position where we feel like we only need to buy Nintendo consoles and we can ignore the rest.
That's really interesting. Uh, like it it makes me wonder if do you do you think that like it's even worth making a PlayStation 6 or a new Xbox now?
Yeah, that's a difficult situation. Also, I'm concerned that Nintendo is eventually going to have their like moment in the future where they're going to have to backtrack and readjust things, but that will probably be for the better of gamers as a whole, so maybe I'm not that worried about it. Anyway, where Nintendo does not like to take a loss on consoles.
Right.
But
That's why
yeah,
it's expensive as heck.
yeah, that's why it's now $400 before taxes to get a Switch 2.
Yeah. Plus the economy.
Yeah, so because of that, it can be pretty expensive to get Switch 2 with how it's like made and everything because of the fact that they don't want to take a loss on consoles, while on the flip side, PlayStation and Xbox, they're willing to take a loss on consoles because they can use the mass production to make the money back through games and subscription services.
Right. And the games and subscription services, well, I can't say this about subscription services, but I can say this about games. Generally speaking, Xbox and PlayStation games will decrease in price after just a few months. So, like, even if you aren't like super current with getting the new release, you can wait a little bit and you can get it for a much cheaper price. And they must still be making a profit of some sort at that point. So it's almost like if you are already taking a loss on the console, but you're making all kinds of profit on the games, and people already have a way to play the games, what's really stopping you from saying, well, I guess we'll take the Sega route. We're all software developers now, and we just make games.
Yeah, that's a very strong possibility we could see in the future, especially with Steam announcing that they're making games. I could also see Xbox trying the online subscription route because, with the exception of the price increase they've announced recently,
Jeez.
Xbox Game Pass has done extremely well over the years, and it has cloud gaming, and I could see them going for a push to make it exclusively cloud gaming for Xbox games in the future. Like, why bother making a console if they've already got the server set up for cloud gaming?
Right. And like if I was PlayStation, I would be sweating bullets looking at Steam's new console and thinking about, oh, I literally gave them everything I have. And it's like, do we stop putting our games on PC now since it's kind of feeding our biggest competitor? Or do we just embrace it and let people game this way? Like it's really fascinating to me just to see like how the conversation has kind of changed over time, where it used to be so important to have your console exclusives, but now I think the mindset of players has kind of shifted to being just, I want to play games with my friends, and we both have different consoles, so now we can't play together. But if we all have the same PC, we can.
Yeah, that's another big advantage is PC. You've never had to worry about like crossplay and stuff because you're just both playing on the computer.
Well, I know that crossplay is a huge determiner for me if I pick up some new like multiplayer game, because I have a lot of friends that play games. Most of them are playing on a PC just for like the convenience of it. So it's like if I'm picking up a game, and I do prefer console gaming over PC, and it is multiplayer based, a big selling point is whether or not it has cross platform for that reason. So
Um,
like you get me a console that's basically just a gaming PC that runs on the same ecosystem as Steam, and I don't have to subscribe to get online multiplayer functionality. You know, that feels like a no-brainer next move for me.
I think it's going to come down to the price of the console is going to be the determining factor.
Yeah, that might be a thing, but even if it costs the same as a PlayStation, you know, that's a much more enticing offer than a PlayStation, and you're not going to find a really good gaming PC at that price point either.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but my concern is like, what if they have to go the route of like $600 or $700? At that situation, it may not perform well because people at that point may be like, "Oh, I'll just spend the extra $200 to $300 to build my own PC and have it be way more powerful."
Sure. But it's also not like a machine for the PC gamer. It's a machine for the console gamer to get into PC gaming. you know?
That's a very solid point.
And the rumor mill is saying that Xbox's next console is going to be over $1,000. So
That that would be a death sentence.
you say, here's your options. You can get the PlayStation for 6, because let's be real, it's not going to go down. You can get the PlayStation 6 for $600. You can get the Steam Deck for 600, or not the Steam Deck, the Steam Box for 600, or you can get the Xbox for 1,000. I'm immediately never looking at Xbox again.
Yeah.
And unless PlayStation has like the biggest exclusives possible, and I guess we're back to that. If they give me like 2 more Spider-Mans and 2 Wolverine games and they bring Uncharted back and all of them are exclusives, I'm probably not going to care about the PlayStation 6, which is weird of me to hear me say.
What's really funny about the situation, in my opinion, is the fact that like, how do I phrase this? Xbox has spent so much money on getting like getting new game studios and things so they can make more exclusive games, but then they didn't really do anything with it.
No, they just but like some of them I understand, you can't take Minecraft away from the people. You can't take like Cuphead, I think was a PC first thing, right?
I want to say Cuphead came out on PC and Xbox.
Yeah. So like you have a lot of these games that are kind of co-developed for PC anyway. And it would be hard to say, "Oh, this IP that you guys love and has been on PC this whole time and just available for anyone who has a computer." Well, they're available for anyone who has an Xbox now. Like it would
Yeah,
have
I get
been
what you mean.
it would have been a death sentence if they took Minecraft off of all the consoles and made it Xbox exclusive. That would have been a disaster. It was already a disaster when they took everyone's accounts and transferred them to the Microsoft account system.
Yeah, it's gaming's been in a weird position recently, that's for sure. And I think
So,
it's to the point
go ahead.
where we're gonna see like, because we've already seen a lot of budget cuts happen recently, and like firing and letting go different studios and companies and everything. So it's just, I don't see it getting better. And then on top of that, with games, coming out, and it's so funny because there was that whole conversation when Baldur's Gate 3 came out where AAA developers were like, hey, you can't have this expectation that games are going to be like this for every situation, that they're all going to come out fully good to go with no DLC or anything, because that's not realistic. And then freaking Player Obscure shows up, says, hold my alcoholic beverage, and then does it again at an even lower price than Baldur's Gate. And it's showing, gamers that no, you don't need these ridiculously huge budgets to make good games. You just need good developers that know what they're doing to make these good
Mhm.
games. And I think we're going to see a huge shift in the industry because of that.
It's just, I feel like, in generally speaking, video games are just, I feels like we're almost at a tipping point where it's, people don't care so much about your exclusives. People don't care about how big your budget is. They just care if the game is good. And uh, they don't want to be like railroaded into having to buy DLC to complete the game, or uh, unlock all of the cool cosmetics by handing over your credit card. And I've mentioned this to you before, but lately I've been feeling really nostalgic for the PS2 era of games, where it says you put the game in the console, you turn it on, it works. You unlock stuff by being good at it, and it, it's just there. You bought the game once, you don't have to keep buying it.
Yeah, it's nice to have, which is why I have, still a bunch of retro games and things set up
Oh,
on
do
my
you?
yeah, at home. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, go figure. Yeah, I recently picked up a physical copy of Super Smash 64 and played on the original hardware, and that's fun.
Oh, I bet that is fun.
Yeah, sometimes it's just good to go back and play things on the original hardware, and like you said, you don't have to worry about patches, you don't have to wait for it to update if there's any updates that are out. You don't have to have it checked to see if you have an online connection to make sure that can connect to the servers, even though for some reason it's a single player game but still needs to be connected to the servers for some reason. And yeah, you just can skip all that, put it in the console, play the game.
Well, don't we sound like a bunch of crotchety old men?
I know, right?
Roaming was better in my day. We didn't have to connect to the interwebs or any of that. We just pushed the button and then Mario went running.
But sometimes you have to blow into the cartridge first.
Oh no. It's oh man.
Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good that has come from modern gamings and technology developing and everything. Like, a game like Clair Obscur or Baldur's Gate 3, I'm not sure could have been made, with old hardware unless they did a lot of cuts or made it, like, look like very gross graphically. But the fact that we have the technology to do it now is amazing. It's just whether or not companies are willing to put in the effort to make it happen.
Well, what's interesting, in every other industry, technology makes things faster and cheaper. And for some reason, people are insisting that gaming has only gotten slower and more expensive because of technology. And it's like maybe if you're trying to constantly push the boundary, but like in theory, if you wanted to do a 2D pixel art RPG, that should happen fairly quickly now. Like the tool should be pretty much just drop in, copy and paste and ready to go.
Yeah, we've seen like companies and like small indie developers be able to get out these really small games file size wise and still do very well with them. Like in 2015, we had the huge boom with Undertale, which performed well. Let me check the file size for Undertale real quick just to kind of put things in perspective. This was around the time that games were starting to get what, like 50 to 60 gigs in size?
Yeah, with the gigabyte size, we could talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's like it's pretty commonly held belief and pretty much confirmed at this point that a lot of developers will make their games just insanely huge so they take up your whole hard drive so you can't play any other games.
Which is pretty ridiculous because, like, in that case, I'm just gonna only have it downloaded while I want to play the game, then I'm gonna uninstall it to fit something else on there.
Right, but then that comes with like the whole Fortnite method of keeping you playing the game. You bought the battle pass, you only get the full battle pass if you play it by this amount of time, so you better get on it.
That's the thing. Every company wants to be Fortnite now and they want to do that, but at the end of the day, you're not only competing for people's money, you're competing for people's time.
Mhm.
I, for example, I work a full time job. I don't have time to sit down and play video games for like 12 to 13 hours straight like I used to as a kid. Yeah, sure, maybe on like a weekday, not weekday, but maybe on a day off or something, I can fit in more gaming time than usual. But even on my days off, I may have things to take care of, like seeing a dentist or going to the doctor or doing some cleaning around the house. I'm an adult. I don't have the time to commit that much to various online games. Right now, the only game that I'm working on a battle pass for is 2XKO, and that's the thing. I can only handle one battle pass game at a time.
I gave up on trying to keep up with Fortnite's battle pass. I used to be pretty good at making sure I was always there, but I just kind of got sick of paying for the battle pass and then feeling like I paid to get into a job where I'm playing a game just to get the XP from it. And it's like, you know what? I stopped having fun.
That's the thing. That's one of the drawbacks of battle passes. Battle passes work if you're having fun, but once you stop having fun, they stop working.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't bother me that I, log in every day or so to play a few matches of 2XKO because I'm still having fun with it. I'm big on fighting games, I'm still enjoying it. And I'm only doing the free battle pass for now because none of the rewards in the paid for battle pass matter to me. So because of that, I'm doing the free one for now. Maybe in the future, if they have more things in it that I actually want, I'll pay for it. But I'm sticking with free for now, enjoying the game still. But yeah, once I get tired or bored of the game, and the other issue with battle passes is you also run into the issue of once you get all the rewards you want, or you get the value out of it that you wanted, then people tend to go on hiatus for the game until the next battle pass.
This conversation has gone in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, it started with exclusivity, and now this is where we're
Yeah, now we're
at.
complaining about how bad gaming is and how battle passes are the worst and
I will
blah.
say, I will say that I don't think gaming has become bad. I still enjoy gaming. I still enjoy new games that come out and pick up new games. I just think that developers have gotten greedy.
Yeah, that's how it always goes, isn't it?
When it came to bring it back to, the topic at hand, when it comes to exclusivity and games and stuff, what do you think's the shift that caused that to happen? Because, we see N64, PS1, and even Xbox, PS2, GameCube were pushing some exclusives, especially Xbox trying to get their flagship titles in and getting exclusives there. What do you think changed to make it so that companies didn't want to make exclusives anymore?
Well, I think we kind of touched on this a little bit that uh, the majority of the money in the gaming industry comes from the games itself,
Hmm.
and it doesn't come from the hardware to play them. So I think what happened was people realized, look, I have Halo here, and this is kind of a new thing. I have Halo. People like Halo. There is a big audience who never had an Xbox and therefore never played Halo, but they're an interested audience. And we know they're interested because we had a couple of crossovers, most specifically with Helldivers. We had an ODST crossover with Helldivers, and that worked out really well. PlayStation liked that. Master Chief showed up in Fortnite, and that sold a lot. So we could probably sell a few games if we gave Halo to the masses. Let's put it on PlayStation. And I think it's that same kind of mentality that just kind of went forward. It's, oh, we sold Crash Bandicoot to the PlayStation people and they liked it, but there's a lot more people we could sell it to if we put it on Xbox and GameCube as well. And so they did. I
Yeah,
think
that
that's
makes sense.
yeah, I think that's kind of the shift is that uh you follow the money and the money says that all gamers are the same. Nobody really does care about console wars. And we really just want to play the cool games that each other has. Like growing up, I'd have friends with the Nintendo 64. I had a PlayStation. I would go over to their place to play games because I wanted to play the games they had. They would come to my place to play the games I had. That was just how
Hmm.
it worked. We didn't really care about exclusives. If anything, we cared about the fact that I couldn't just play Smash Brothers when I wanted.
Yeah. Dude, it's kind of interesting because I'm actually looking at a chart from VGCharts with a Z.com,
Nice.
talking about the sales of PlayStation versus Xbox versus Nintendo Switch, specifically PS5 and then Xbox Series X/S on a chart, and it's very interesting to see. So, actually, at first, the best selling right out the gate was PS5.
Yeah.
And the way it does the comparisons is like months away from the monthly launch because that's how you fairly compare them since they were all launched at different times.
Yeah.
And in essence, Xbox, which was the least known for exclusives, actually sold the worst over the lifetime at 50 months, ending at about just over 30 million.
Well, it's like I don't think we can deny the power of having an exclusive.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned already in my story, and I'm sure this isn't unique. I picked a PlayStation because it had its exclusives And the games that are cross-platform, I can play them on a PlayStation. I can play Batman Arkham Knight on anything, but I can play Batman Arkham Knight and Uncharted 4 on a PlayStation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, like that, there is something to be said about making the hardware sales by having an exclusive, but I don't think the hardware sales are nearly as important anymore. And like outside of the controller, PlayStation isn't doing anything extra special with the console. Xbox hasn't done anything extra special with the console or controller. The only one the company I think really has any reason to say yes, our console is all that different is Nintendo.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting. Well, and then Nintendo's also an interesting case because the Switch is a hybrid console as well.
Yeah,
So the fact that you can take it anywhere on top of the fact that, it just has it can also be put on a TV is very appealing. And it's really interesting to see because the PlayStation charts overall are pretty consistent and by 50 months it reached about just over 70 million in sales, so more than doubling Xbox's sales. And but then on the flip side, what's really interesting with Nintendo is that it has these pretty steady, kind of slow growths that almost mimic Xbox at first. However, they have these random giant jumps in the sales, which I think comes from them announcing different exclusives that people really, really want. So, like, for example, you see huge jumps around the time Smash Ultimate was announced, another big time around the time Tears of the Kingdom was announced, things like that.
so here's an interesting question then. Do you think that having exclusives hurts your own gaming audience, like makes your console too niche?
I think it hurts gamers because we get less options, but it benefits the companies because if you can make good enough first party exclusives that convince people to buy consoles, that's when you have a grip on it. It's to the point where at first Nintendo was underneath or matching the PlayStation in sales, but around 37 months in or so, that's when they started overtaking things to the point that they sold nearly 90 million units.
Pretty impressive. Though I think Nintendo also has the extra benefit, and I think this is in large part to its exclusives. I feel like everyone has Nintendo as at least their second console.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I heard a YouTuber bring this up that they were comparing the Steam Deck to the Switch One back when before the Switch 2 days. And they made an interesting statement that they wouldn't recommend a Steam Deck to just everyone, but they would recommend a Switch to everyone.
The Switch is just I think the reason why the Switch works is not only is it portable and convenient and a family friendly console, but it's just the fact of that availability overall. They make games specifically tailored to be able to appeal to most people as opposed to just specific groups. Like for example, you got exclusives like Uncharted and Spider Man with PlayStation. Yeah, they'll appeal to a lot of people, but they're not going to appeal to everyone. While on the flip side, you see games like Mario, Zelda, because of that childhood nostalgia, it's going to appeal to a much larger demographic on top of, kids and teenagers playing games.
Yeah, I agree. But then also, just the sheer number of exclusives that Nintendo has makes me want to say, I could have a PlayStation and a Nintendo.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not going to find anything like Smash Brothers that's worth playing outside of Smash Brothers, and I can only get that on a Switch.
Regrettably, most games that have tried to recreate Smash Brothers end up dying.
Yeah, unfortunately, it makes me sad. Rip multiverses.
I enjoyed Multiverses. I also really enjoyed Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 1 and 2, but I'd be surprised if we get a third one.
Gone forever, but not in our hearts.
Exactly. I even have a soft spot for PlayStation All Star Battle Royale. I would argue that wasn't that great of a game, but it was still a lot of fun to
Mm.
play.
You hush your face.
Look, it was not a well balanced game, and the approach they took to losing lives, I think, ended up hurting it in the long run.
So, but like, there's that, and there's plenty of Zelda like clones. Like, I would argue that Horizon Zero Dawn is pretty much Breath of the Wild for non Nintendo consoles.
Yeah, fair.
I don't know if you ever played it.
No, but I've seen how it plays, and I can see the
Yeah,
parallels.
it plays very much like Breath of the Wild and The Last of Us, if you were to mix the two together. But
Gotcha.
I I can't play the Breath of the Wild unless I have a Switch. I can't play Odyssey unless I have a Switch. I can't play any Mario games unless I get the Switch. So I think Nintendo right now is really the only company that thrives from having exclusives solely because they just have so many in so many different genres and they're all interesting.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's to the point where we see sales increase with the Switch with time, and I think, like you said, a big reason for that is a lot of people go, "Oh yeah, I won't buy a Switch," or I won't buy a Switch or a Wii on release, but I'll pick it up later after some of the exclusives I want come out.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way about the Switch 2 for a long time. It's like they announced the thing. It's like, oh, okay, neat. Well, I mean, come back to me when they have an exclusive I care about. But like, I'm interested enough in it to keep it on my radar.
Exactly.
Whereas, the conversation with the other two is like, for a long time, it's almost been, oh, it doesn't matter. Just pick whichever one your friends have so you can play multiplayer.
Mm-hmm. And then crossplay kind of got rid of that concern altogether. And then a lot of people just. It's kind of interesting because it's become less so console wars nowadays and become more so console versus PC a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, but then like I said, I feel like that line's starting to get blurred too. Once the Steam Deck dropped, it's like, oh, this is just a straight up game console.
Yep.
This is a game
But
console that I have all of my PC games on, and the prices are really cheap for games, and I could play anything. Let's go. And then they're releasing the console, and it's like it, it's almost like evolution is saying all of these species need to combine, and we're going to end up in a future where what we've got is Steam and Nintendo. And then PlayStation makes games. They are a game developer.
that's kind of crazy to think about because I know Microsoft has been in talks about like doing stuff with Steam. So that's another point to bring up as well.
Yeah. So, and also, we keep speculating about the future, but we've seen this before with Sega.
Yeah, Sega has managed to stay afloat by making games and consoles instead.
Right.
Sorry, not making consoles, but making games. That's what I meant.
Right. And so Sega doesn't have any exclusives anymore because they're all on everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would they bother with exclusives if they're not making consoles? There's no point to do that. Reach a wider audience. It's only going to help your sales.
Right. And I think I so call me silly, but I think Sega has always been one of those companies that's been really far ahead of the trends and ahead of the curve. Like you look at some of the crazy stuff you could do with the Dreamcast, and it's like
Yeah.
we want to see this until the Xbox 360, Like it was just that far ahead of its time. And it's like, you know what? I maybe they were just ahead of the time with that too. Maybe it happened faster because the Dreamcast didn't succeed, but they're obviously doing much better now being a company that just makes games and puts them places. And
Yeah,
maybe
I get it.
maybe they just found the secret sauce and everyone else is catching up.
Yep, and but it's like to the point now of like, they've made these decisions to move away from exclusives and now they're gonna have to kind of, you made your bed, you need a lie in it type situation now.
Hmm. Like, how do you mean?
Well, because now, that they've committed to the fact that they don't have exclusives, it's now to the point where they kind of have to stick with that because people are going to be upset if they backtrack.
Yeah, like it would be weird if they started doing exclusives.
Exactly. And yeah, that's why I'm saying they've made their bed, now they need to lie in it type deal. While Nintendo has a tendency to be stuck in its ways and to stick with how things were in the past. So because of that, we still see things play out the same way that they did before. So yeah.
Okay, but here's an interesting thought on top of that. I think Nintendo can justify having exclusives because their console is so weird.
Yeah,
I,
true.
I've heard it said before that the only thing holding gaming back is the fact that Xbox will not do anything interesting with their controller. PlayStation, the DualShock 5 is a marvel of engineering, and it is incredible. Anyone who sits down and plays any of the Astrobot games, you'll see just how great that controller is.
Dude, I still need to play Astrobot. I've been meaning to.
Dude, play Astrobot. Game of the year. Game of the year.
Big
I'm not
praise
even
there. Oh
joking.
yeah, literally was game of the year, yeah.
Like, it beat out everything else. It is legitimately good, but you sit down, anyone who plays that knows that the DualShock 5 is something special. But, or I guess the DualSense. It's weird not calling it the DualShock. But then
Makes
X-
sense.
Xbox isn't doing anything with their controller, and so developers have no reason to make games that play around with the features of the DualSense because you're just going to have to take it all away when you take it to the Xbox. But on the
Mm-hmm.
side of Nintendo, Nintendo has a weird console, and because they have exclusives on that weird console, like Astrobot is to PlayStation, they can do wacky stuff with the console, and that makes the games
Yeah,
better,
very true.
or at least more interesting.
Yeah, it at least adds a layer of interest to it, like you said.
Yeah, because like you think about like the Wii U, they did wacky stuff with that game pad. You couldn't do that on any other console, which I think helps Nintendo's argument for keeping exclusives. It's that, look, we have to keep our exclusives because if we don't, no one will see how cool this console is because they're all going to make it to the lowest common denominator, which is, Xbox's no nonsense, push the button, it does something gameplay.
Mm.
But now, like the Switch 2, it's a mouse and it's a gyroscope and it has like weighted vibration that makes it like feel real somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, Nintendo's always looking to do interesting and weird stuff with their consoles. I think that's part of the reason why the Wii did so well.
Yeah, and why you cannot possibly port any Wii games or any like first party Wii games anyway to a non Nintendo console. Like, could you imagine trying to play Wii Sports, but you're trying to use a traditional controller to do it? Like, wouldn't it be nearly
It
as
wouldn't
fun?
work. Well, yeah, okay, yeah, fair. It could maybe work, but a situation of, like you said, wouldn't be as fun. You're not literally swinging the controller. Instead, you're just kind of awkwardly
Yeah,
pointing at the screen, I guess, at that point.
even if the DualSense is a motion controlled controller, you probably could play Wii games with it, but it wouldn't make as much sense because no games are built that way. They were built for the hardware, and the hardware was wacky. And Nintendo always has wacky hardware, so you can't really take a whole lot of their games and put them in other places. Not fully anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely a lot to keep track of and to make work. So, yeah, I see what you mean.
Hmm. What do we
And
talk
yeah,
about now?
that's kind of where we're at now with Nintendo's, being the stubborn puppy it is. It's stuck with what it felt would work, and it's worked out for them in that regard.
Yeah, so they have no reason to change. I don't think we'll ever see, at least legally, Nintendo games on PC or PlayStation or Xbox or anywhere else.
Yeah, I just don't ever see them doing it.
Yeah. No, I mean, they can't even port their own games. They can't make
Yeah, true.
they can't port Nintendo DS to the Switch. Like the hardware is there, but like the form factor just isn't. You can't get the two screens going.
So there's actually talks of them potentially porting, getting DS games to the Switch too.
How would they even do that? You'd have to just have both screens on like the one, and you'd have to have it on docked so you can use the touchscreen.
Remember the Virtual Boy that was announced for the Switch too?
The $1 billion piece of plastic it came with, yeah.
Yep. There's talks that maybe you have to buy a second screen that attaches to the top of the Switch too to make DS games happen.
No, I don't want to do that.
And do you remember the new thing they announced on the Switch 2 hardware that's part of it?
They have the port on the top.
Yep, they added a USB-C port to the top on top of the
Oh,
bottom, one that was there before.
they have a port on the top. I thought that was for convenience. That's totally so they could sell more stuff.
Dude, Nintendo does stuff like this all the freaking time. Like they announce virtual game key game cards, okay?
Yep.
And when that was announced, I thought it was a really cool idea because I was sitting there going, okay, so because of the virtual game key, now you can actually let your friends borrow your virtual games, which is really cool. Instead of borrowing the cartridge, they borrow digital games for like digital only games and stuff. I was like, okay, cool. I can share my digital games with my friends and family, let them borrow them for 2 weeks at a time, and they can play through cool games, or I can let them try out games that they're interested in, things like that. However, I recently realized the true purpose of them, and it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, it's so that like you can take your games away.
It's actually so you cannot play your digital games on Switch 1 and Switch 2 at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah, if I want to play a game on my Switch 1 that I had attached to my Switch 2, I have to have the digital key card transferred back to my Switch 1 to prevent me from playing on both at the same time.
mm-hmm.
Despite
Ah,
the fact
man.
that I own both consoles and have the game downloaded for both, I can only play with one of them at a time. Yeah, Nintendo has a tendency to do stuff like that.
What? Well, shoot.
Yeah, like I said, when they first announced it, I was like, wow, that's so cool. I love that they did that. And then they announced that, and well, they didn't even announce that, but I get the Switch 2 and that happens. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, gaming was better back in the day where you could just plug the game in and it worked. But
We've all been there.
I think developers are really leading the charge for that now. It's just like, they want to just make games because the passion is still there. And they're not trying to answer to any kind of like shareholders or profit meetings or anything like that.
And I think that's why we're seeing these smaller companies start to really thrive and do well because of the fact that they're breaking free from the confines of the big companies to make what they want.
Yeah. Which frankly, I think that's the only way you can do it is you'd have to be willing to break away from them and just do your own thing. And then that's where PC gaming really comes into play, where even if we didn't have Steam, you could still make a PC game and sell it anywhere and no one can stop you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you can even sell games on like itch.io, go to GOG, go to Epic Games. You'll find someone that'll be willing to let you sell your game there.
Yeah. Or, I mean, it's just a downloadable file, you could sell it on your own. Like, that would be a heck of
Exactly.
an infrastructure, but you could do it.
Not even that complicated. Just make a website with like Wix or something and throw it on there.
Yeah. Click to download the game, or click to give us $5 and we'll give you the download for the game.
Exactly. We'll email you the game file or something.
Yeah, it's like, and anyway, Viva la Revolution, I guess. I don't know.
Something like that.
Hmm.
That's great.
Yeah, all these punk rock rebel game developers just making their own games because no one can stop us. Play.
Hooray us, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of sad that like the state of console exclusives has kind of landed us to this point where the exclusives happen to try and sell the consoles, and then people realize that the consoles don't really make money, so you might as well put the games everywhere. But because the games are everywhere, you can kind of gouge people for them, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it, really.
I don't even blame companies that went the route of avoiding exclusivity because of the fact that, they're trying to reach a wider audience to increase their sales, and also just for general good rep, because it's like, oh wow, they're kind enough to let us, buy this game on anything. That's so cool, type deal. All right, well, I think that pretty much summarizes it for our episode of GC Squared. Like, Taylor mentioned bugs of life to me previously, and actually it is like that. As gamers, we're small little ants. Each of us are an ant where we feel like we don't have that much influence, but in reality, when we come together and we decide whether or not we want to buy something, that's how you vote in the gaming industry. You vote with your wallet. If you want something to change or you don't approve of something, don't buy it. And then if enough people do that, they'll hear your call, they'll understand, and they'll make changes accordingly. That's what happened with Cyberpunk. That's what happened with No Man's Sky. People voted with their wallets to prove a point, and that led to better changes for those games, and now those games sell well and do well.
I forgot completely about how Cyberpunk was that. But like it also creates bigger change too, where, Baldur's Gate 3 just completely swept away the competition. And one of its biggest selling points was that it had ethical consumer practices. It's like, here's the game. You bought the game. Good job. You can have it now. No strings attached. And that changed a lot of how the gaming industry works, because it defied all the expectations of, frankly, people who don't play the games.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the best way to, if you truly, this is how I feel. If you care enough about a franchise and a game, you will care enough not to needlessly throw your money.
So there we go. It's kind of a combined words of wisdom, I guess, but
yeah.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to our episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you spread it around, share it if you thought it was cool, or follow us on YouTube or on Spotify. We are on Spotify and YouTube right now. And we'll catch you in the next episode. See ya.
Yep. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great